Alright, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a full day as opposed to just like a night to work on projects. So got a lot of things going on here. First off, I gotta do a wheel bearing on this thing. We were driving, car's 40,000 miles on it. Somehow front right wheel bearing smoked. So gonna do the wheel bearing, and I forgot I also have new brakes for it. So I'm gonna do new front brakes today. We'll see if I want to dive into the rear brakes, but since I'm going to be on this front corner and taking the brakes apart, I might as well do the fronts on both sides. So then from there, I'm going to jump over to the DriftV, and I don't really know what I'm going to start with on that today. I know I got to peel off the rest of the emblems and stuff like that, but once we get to like midday, it's going to be way too hot out there to wrap, so I might plan to do some vinyl wrap stuff tonight. Last night, I got the whole front right corner. I know I had mentioned in the previous video, I had to do all the poly bushings. So I did all the poly bushings on that side. I got this fender rolled, cracked the paint a little bit because this fender was resprayed pretty terribly at some point. So I just feathered off the edge of the cracked paint with some 320 grit sandpaper. So we're all good there. Tire's not gonna be catching the fender. And then I think what I'm gonna end up doing is first, I'll move the car over and I'm going to pull that wheel off. I have a new end link that I had to put on that side that I put on that side last night. And then I am gonna try and finagle the AC compressor back into the car and get the AC lines all hooked up, both to the condenser and to the compressor. A big goal of mine is to have AC in the drift car. So even when you guys saw in a previous video that I relocated the radiator, I moved the top of it forward a few inches. I wanted to make sure that I could retain the AC lines that reach the condenser, and I did. You know, it'll work. So I'm gonna get that all hooked back up. I'm gonna see if the factory AC belt fits on my underdrive crank pulley. I don't think the AC system was supposed to be underdriven at all, but we'll find out when the compressor is mounted into the car and I can test fit the belt. So that'll probably be our next route. So first, let's do some German car things. Like insane amount of movement. Now side to side sometimes could be steering components, but when you got that up and down, that's how you know it's a wheel bearing. And the brake rotor is moving with it, and it's moving the brake caliper. It creates a whole mess. So I'm gonna pop this wheel off, pop the brakes off, and we will go from there.
Many minutes later.
All right, so at the beginning of this video, I had high hopes of, you know, doing a quick little segment on knocking out the wheel bearing on the Audi. But as some of you guys can probably relate, there's always just that one thing that causes the 1 hour job to turn into the 4 hour job at the rate that it ended up. So I couldn't even get the rotor off of the hub. It was seized on. So thankfully I had new brakes for the car. So, you know, I was gonna replace it anyways. Gave it some smacks with the hammer, couldn't get it off. So I was able to get it out, pulled the whole entire assembly out on its own. But that thing, I don't wanna touch that thing again. But I know that I'm gonna have to soon because I actually have to do the brakes on the other side. So what side were we working on? We were working on this side. So you can see we got a nice new rotor in there. New centric, I think, or power stop. I think it's a centric rotor, coated hats, so they'll stay nice. And we got the Posi Quiet pads up here in the front. We got it all back together. Doing the wheel bearing on this car was a royal pain. If you've never done one on a Volkswagen or Audi, it was difficult. I said to Morgan, I probably could have done every wheel bearing on that, every wheel bearing on that, every wheel bearing on that, and every wheel bearing on the 3000 in the time that it took me to do the one wheel bearing. So then I pulled this side off. This side didn't need a wheel bearing. I was just going to do the brakes on this side, and just like the other side, the rotor is seized to the hub. So I put it back together. I sprayed some Aerocroil down the holes to hopefully let that seep in and break the bond that the rotor has with the hub. And otherwise I'm gonna have to order another hub And we're going to do another hub job on this side just to do the brake job at the same time. Rears, I don't even know what to expect for those things, but these dang German cars, man. So now what I'm going to do is disconnect the tent. I got Mac barking at me here. There's Mac. See him in the window. Good old neighbor dog, Mac. So much stuff to do, so little time. Let's get started. Round 2 of today. I had to do a reset. I jumped in the pool, cooled down, cleaned up, and I went and got lunch. And that was like my reset for the day. And now we're gonna start part 2 of the day with the Cadillac. Quick update, drained the rad of all of its water. And I did have 1 bottle of water wetter in there. Again, water wetter is not like antifreeze where it can't wash away. I mean, this is honestly just gonna dry out on my driveway, but it's all distilled water. Rad's out. I was trying to do it without pulling the rad. Feed it in through the wheel well. Impossible. So thankfully, the way that I have all this with this little rad support and whatnot, it takes me 3 minutes to get the rad out of this car, so serviceable. And I did notice that I was having like a weird, like you could see it on the pulley right here, like greasy like buildup on the pulley here, and it kind of drips. And I think that's where I've had a leak from the front of the engine, but it wasn't oil. I couldn't figure out what it was, and it was starting like on the crank pulley here, and it turns into like a sticky oil, and I can't figure out what it is. So I kind of reached up under here, underneath the water pump, and it feels like behind the pulley here, it's kind of wet and sticky. So I'm wondering if my water pump is leaking. So I might have to put a new water pump on the car. That's good, you know. So that won't happen before the cage, I don't think, because I'd have to pull, honestly, I'd have to keep it like this. I don't know, maybe. I'll go order one tonight, see if it ships out and gets here in time. Slapping a water pump isn't a big deal either. I'll just hold off from putting the rad back in, and you know, from there it's just these 3 lines, water lines, pop the hose off and pop the belt off, and then pop this tensioner off to get access to the bolts back here. And then it's 3 bolts there, 3 bolts there. I have another set of gaskets. I mean, these gaskets are brand new anyways. And then you swap your tensioner over. So I guess I'll get another water pump on order. Fun stuff. Love to see it. But I now have plenty of room down here to feed the AC compressor down. We got our AC compressor tensioner right here, and the belt goes in here. So I got to pull the belt here anyways. So I'll probably just pull it off, leave it off, and we'll go from there. I do have a leak from the back of the engine as well. I think it's either going to be the brand new oil barbell or the brand new rear main seal, one or the other. It's leaking from around, it's like there's like a little hole at the bottom of the bell housing, like a weep hole, and it is leaking out of there. So it's from the back of the engine up top around the oil pressure sensor, no oil. And again, it sucks, brand new parts, and they're leaking. I used all the proper alignment tools and whatnot for the rear main seal, but I guess that's what you get sometimes. So the trans is gonna have to come out. I do have a speed bleeder line to go in this car on the shelf that when the trans does come out. So I'm thinking that like maybe it's not a bad oil leak, it's just like seeping, but I do want to correct it. So I'm hoping that maybe when we're home in October, I can address it then. But in the meantime, we'll get this thing dialed in and tuned and drive it around a little bit in the meantime. Again, not a bad oil leak where it's like, you know, pouring out, it's just seeping oil and there's like a little drip, but then it won't like fall, you know what I mean? So let me feed this AC compressor down. Here's our AC compressor right here. It's a Denso unit. I feel like 237,000 miles, this thing has been replaced, but at least they put an OEM one on. If they did replace it, this thing still blew ice cold. So I figured let's toss it back in the car and get our AC lines back in. They've got the one in there that goes into the car, and then we're gonna have the other line that goes from right here to the condenser. So we'll get everything prepped up and ready to go here, and then we'll try and get that belt in to see if it fits on the underdrive pulley. All right, so we got our compressor installed right in here. Then we got the two lines installed right down there with some new hardware. And they route
down underneath here, ignored the giant belt. Down underneath here, we got the one line right here, yes, and then the other line. So this is the one that comes from the compressor to the condenser, and this is the one that goes condenser into the car. So all we need is, I think I gotta get some new bolts because I probably tossed them. I don't think they're on the front of the condenser anymore. Nope, they're gone. All right, so I gotta get some new bolts for the condenser, and then when this thing goes in, it should be good. However, another obstacle that we need to cross is I put the stock size belt on, and as you can see, it ain't gonna do much. So I need a shorter AC belt. I'm gonna go back to Summit and see if I can find in the reviews the part number of belt those guys were looking for and cross-reference it and basically find something at the parts store that'll work. It's kind of what I had to do with this. You know, the belt that they told you to run wasn't exactly even the belt. So if you have a cts-v and you get the Summit Racing 25% underdrive crank pulley, that nice shiny piece down there, this is the belt size you need. Let's see if that'll focus. This is the belt size you need. Look that up. Dayco poly rib. That's 6PK 2005. That one fits. It allows, the tensioner is very tight. It allows for a lot of belt stretch, basically. So we'll see what I can find. I just need like a belt that's like an inch maybe or two shorter. That way I can actually get some tension on this thing when I route it. All right, guys, so it's the next day. Like I said, rad's out. I took everything apart in the front, closed it all up. I painted the bash bar to match, and right now what I'm doing is working on gutting the interior for the cage. So what that is going to entail of is, as you saw in the last video, we got the Sparco seat in, but I need to get, sorry, they're doing roofing across the street, so sorry for the noise, but I need to get the whole dash, center console, and all that stuff out of the car. And I want to tape, like unclip these harnesses that run down here and tape them out of the way, tape them up nice, anything that is in the way. I think once the dash is off, I'm gonna have to get under here and get rid of the parking brake pedal, because an anti-intrusion bar is ultimately gonna have to go right there. So right now I'm just working on all that. Pulled the center stack out right here, and I just have the wires behind it for the radio and then the switch panel. So I have my relay panel here. I got all the wires on the backside unplugged, and basically it's all these guys, and they all go, well, this one goes to the radio, and these guys all go to the switch panel, so they'll all pull out together with the centerpiece. And then right now I'm just disconnecting the positive and the negative from the distribution little panels here. So once these two are off, I can pull this whole panel out, and then I can pull the center stack out, and I can continue pulling the dash out. Once the dash is out, as you can see right here in the middle, it's a little wavy because this dash is cracked. It's so sun damaged that like the plastic underneath this dash is so brittle. But I got this piece from the junkyard that replaced the cracked piece. I don't know how. I'm trying to be, as I hit it on my seat, I'm trying to be very careful with that one because it's probably not far behind. One wrong move, nothing's breaking. Same with the new center stack. This one, the notorious top piece that the vents clip into, is demolished and gone. So I found a new one, well, a new used one at the junkyard, same car that I pulled that out of. So I'm gonna knock this all out. Basically, I didn't really put the dash in for good. So once these panels are out, it's just a matter of really just unplugging these guys here. And then I have the little 7 mils, 2 on each side. And then I don't think I did any, there might be one down in here, but there's so much broken plastic on this car, it's crazy. So I'm just gonna run through, get the rest of the 7 mils out, and I'll show you guys what it looks like behind the dash of one of these things once it's ripped out. So this is what it looks like behind the CTS dash. Right here is where the airbag used to sit, passenger side. And then there was some ducting up top here that comes out of the main air box right here and whatnot. That has all been removed. Once the cage is in, I will be putting that back in because I would like to try and keep the center vents, defroster vents as well. I'll probably have to cut and I think the cage tube will be in the way coming down for the outside vents, but at least we have some kind of air blowing, because as you guys saw earlier in the video, I will be running AC in this car. So all I'm going to do here is just plug these main connectors back in, just so that the car runs. I could drive it up onto the trailer. I'm going to tuck everything up out of the way. I'm going to remove this lower piece here, but I think that's about as much as I can do. I'm going to tie up the whole center stack harness. I'm going to just put it up there. I'm just going to try and make everything nice and neat. And then I got to clean out all these pieces that I just took out and put them over there in the garage. So I'm a little worried about this giant piece of aluminum. I think it's aluminum, or I don't really know. This giant piece of metal right here, this whole structure, this is basically like the cross structure, and it houses the air box and all that stuff. And I'm not sure if this area is going to get in the way of what they're doing. So I don't really know if I should touch it or not, or if I should leave it and, you know, let them do what they want with it. Because if you get rid of the outside mount points, like this one right here, and this one right here, and this one right here, there's 3. I mean, it does still have a center mount, and it mounts up here to the firewall across the middle. So if for any reason they have to cut this and I lose like these side bolts or anything, I guess it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'm just gonna leave it, you know, let them do their thing, and see what they do. I mean, no problem if they trim these tabs and whatnot off. And I mean, the only thing that it holds is basically just this connector, which can be moved, and on the other side it's the connector and then the OBD2 port. So not a big deal, but I'm gonna keep plugging away at it, and we'll see how stripped we can get this thing. So we got the foot pedal out. There's a bolt right behind this plug. There's a bolt right in there, and then there is a bolt over here on the side, a 10 mil. These two are 13s. And then I cut the cable right there, and the cable pulls through here. And then yeah, you just got to push the clutch pedal in to get the arm out of the way, and then the whole assembly drops out. So this one is going to the trash pile. Back here, I think I'm going to leave it as is. If they need to pop these plastic clips out on the wires here to land the cage tubes, they can. I don't know if they're going to land them up here on the wheel tub or go down right around there on the actual shock tower closer to the shock. So I'm kind of now looking at, I'm kind of leaning on the fact that they might land it down there, so I'm just gonna leave it be. And then if they have to move these wires at all, I'll pop that guy off because that guy's a bit of a pain. Same with that one. I'll make that section of the harness loose, but if they have to land the roll bar portion, I'm assuming because of my seating position being right here, they're going to land the roll bar up top here. Might just make it easier on them as well. So I'm gonna assume that, but I'll make the wires easily movable for when I have to get back here. So otherwise, we just got a couple other little door trims and random plastic pieces to get out.
And with that, we are one step closer to having this thing ready to drop off on Friday for the cage. And I'm pretty hyped. So Wednesday, the water pump gets delivered. Gonna toss that in. Thursday, lower rad hose. And what else did I order? Something else I ordered. Oh, AC belt. So AC belt comes as well. We'll get the AC all done, dusted, out the door. We'll do a final assembly on the front end, and then I'll get those front fenders wrapped, and we'll drop that thing off on Friday. So I'm excited. When it comes back, I have to, the main thing that I need to finish is the handbrake. So we need to finish brackets, and we need to get that finalized. ASD mount it in the car, lines run, everything, got to get it done. And then I also need to get the tune, but I'm going to reach out to a tuner. I know I want to tune it myself, but I'm running out of time. And this tuner that is down in Tampa, he does street tuning, but he also teaches you how to use HP tuners while he's tuning your car. And I think that's what I really need to get this tuning stuff down, is to see it in first person and be there with someone that knows what they're doing. So from there, I'm gonna make that appointment. We're gonna get the interior back together, cage painted, car tuned, handbrake done. I'm hoping to bring it to a Cars and Coffee before we leave Florida, but we are in a major home stretch here. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave your comment down below. I'll see you guys in the next one.